Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today is going to be a no makeup makeup. So it's not really going to be like a very minimal makeup. It's going to be creating an illusion that as if you're not wearing makeup but still enhancing your best features. So let's jump right in. For first, I'm going to start off with the Smashbox 24-hour primer, and this is just going to make sure you prime your face and that the foundation or the BB cream or whatever I'm going to be using is going to stay put and it's not going to move around and do funky things. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and actually prime my eyes with the same Smashbox, and it's a 24-hour eye primer. And even though we're not really going, well, we are going to be putting stuff in our lids for the shadow, but even though we're not putting any color on our eyes for the shadow, doesn't mean we don't need primer. In fact, actually, if you're not wearing any eyeshadow at all and you have oily lids, and actually a good tip to still put some primer on to prevent from the oils breaking to the surface. So the next thing we're going to do is go for conceal. If you do have dark under eye circles, then you definitely want to go ahead and do this step. If you don't have any under eye circles, you can go ahead and move on to the foundation or a BB cream. Just taking a flat brush, I'm just taking, this is the BH Studio Pro Concealer. And I actually just got this, so we'll kind of see how it works. And I'm going to go ahead with a damp beauty blender and kind of work this into my skin. And just making sure that the edges are blended out seamingly. We are going to put a different actual concealer on. This is just an extra step to make sure that our dark under eyes are not showing well. So the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and actually use a liquid concealer. This is Maybelline Fit Me in the shade Light. And I'm going to go ahead and put this right on top of the first concealer. I'm also going to go ahead and put this in where I have my sunspots in any darker areas. And going back with the beauty blender, just blending everything out. And I'm going to go ahead and take this onto my lids as well to kind of do the extra step of concealing any darkness that we may have on our lids or around our eyes. Now, if you don't suffer from any dark under eye circles, then you definitely can go ahead and skip this step. You can go ahead and just put like maybe a banana powder just to refresh your under eyes and not necessarily conceal. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this step in this tutorial anyways. So this just gives us a very minimal coverage in the certain areas. It's just kind of diluting any of the dark spots. I'm going to go ahead and actually set my under eyes, but then I'm going to go over with a powder foundation that's actually going to furthermore conceal and just kind of blend and feather everything out. If you want to go ahead and use a liquid foundation, I would recommend using a BB cream because it's a little bit less coverage, so it's not going to be as noticeable that you are actually wearing anything on your face, and it's going to be lighter. You definitely want to keep to the minimal of the makeup that's not going to transfer and that's going to stay in your face and just look flawless, but natural you. To set my under eyes, I'm going to be using RCMA No Color Powder with this tulip brush. I'm going to go back with a damp beauty blender to make sure that our under eyes are not creased. And I do tend to get a little bit creasing here, so I kind of tend to pull my nose away this way and make sure that there's absolutely no creasing from my eyes, because the way my eye shaped is, I do have a crease coming down this way. So I'm just going to make sure there's absolutely no creasing, preferably not looking down. And I'm going to take my brush with my powder in it and I'm just going to set it all. I'm going to use patting motions and then a little bit of sweeping after I've put everything all the product on the face. And I'm just going to dust the remainings. And I usually like to put the rest of it on the T-zone, so around my nose, on my nose, forehead, and then the chin area. Our next step is going to be the foundation. Like I said, I'm going to be using a powder foundation because it does give me a little bit of light to medium coverage, which I like a light to medium coverage versus a full coverage. I recommend using a BB cream for this, something very light with a moisturizer SPF. You can go ahead and use a full coverage foundation, but then it a little bit defeats the point of this no makeup look. Even though our face is going to be super flawless, it's still going to be visible that we are wearing makeup. So I'm gonna go ahead and buff in my foundation. I am using the Bare Minerals foundation in medium, and it does cover fairly, I mean, it does cover light. I would say it's light to medium because I'm not trying to conceal any of my spots really. I'm just trying to create more of like an airbrushed even glow. It's pouring out and it's gonna thunder. So I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. It's thundering outside and pouring rain right now. And it was just sunny like 20 minutes ago. That's Florida for you. The next thing I'm going to be doing is putting a little bit of a nice glow to our under eyes. I'm going into the contour palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm going to be using actually the mixture of two of these, and I'm actually going to be setting this and brightening our under eyes. I'm not really going to be like contouring, precise chiseling. I'm going to be more so warming up the face and just creating a very soft contour illusion. So I'm going to be using a fairly fluffy and a fairly large brush to contour. I'm going to be mixing these two shades from the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. And remember to go little and just build up from there. So I'm going to just put a little bit, dab the excess off, move this hair out of the way. And I'm going to start right up here and kind of just buff that in, bring it up to the temple, and just buff everything in and kind of just warming up the face. So I'm not trying to get a precise chisel line, I'm just trying to warm this up and buff everything in. So everything is very seamless, but yet you can still see the effect between this side. So you're creating a very nice, warm, but yet soft contour. And what I like to do anytime I'm doing a contour, I like to go back with the foundation brush and just blend everything in and make sure everything is nice and feathered out. Now another little trick that if you would like to do is contour the bottom of your lip, and this just makes your lip poutier. Now the next thing we're going to do is actually move on to the eyes. We're going to go ahead and kind of create a very soft look on the eyes, but yet we're going to use a little bit of the contour shades to create a very, I wouldn't say very, but a defined crease. So I'm going to do is actually use this shade right here, and I'm going to put that all over the lids. I don't want to put too much in so that it looks very extremely white, but enough to kind of just even the skin tone out and blend everything in together. The next thing I'm going to do is actually take a nice fluffy brush, and I'm going to take one of these contour. I'm actually going to go ahead with this and this. So the same shades that we contoured with, we're going to go ahead and put that in our crease. And this is going to serve the purpose of creating an illusion of a deeper set eye, which also helps to open up the eyes. So it's pretty much kind of like you're putting eyeshadow in your crease, but you're doing a very subtle illusion of the shadow being there. So definitely you want to control it and not put too much to the point where you can see that there's, you know, shadow there. And you can go ahead and focus a little bit on the outer part a little bit more, and then just bring that in. And keep this just in the crease. Next, I'm actually going to go ahead and use a smaller definer brush, and I'm going to focus that in just the crease. And I'm going just slight, like a very slight, just like dipping my brush in there really quick and making sure I just have a little bit of the product. And I'm putting it just in the actual crease. Then I'm going to go back with our blending brush, and I'm going to go ahead and blend this out more. Now if sometimes you feel like you may be taking it too much, you can go ahead and take this color that we set in first, and you can go ahead and blend that at the top, at the brow bone, and kind of take this down and diffuse the other color we put on. Now the next step we're going to be doing is actually going back to the first brush that we used to apply everything on our lid, and I'm actually going to go ahead and use this, and we're going to put this a little bit more pigmentation this time, and actually going to go on our lid. And it's going to go directly just on our lid. So now we're kind of doing the technique of highlighting, contouring, except it's on our lids. So we're definitely, and then you can go ahead and highlight the inner corners. Something really weird. You can go ahead and highlight the inner corners, and then going back again with the fluffy brush and blending the two together. So it may not look much from a far away standpoint, but when you add these little things, it really adds up to the natural, the glowy look. We're actually going to go ahead and use this highlight shade right here, and it's not very intense highlight. I would recommend not using intense highlight, and we're going to go ahead and highlight our brow bone. It's just enough to give us that a little bit illuminating look. And I'm going to go ahead and use that in the inner corners as well. And like I said, it's just enough to give that a little pop. You can go ahead and kind of take this on the lid as well if you'd like, but very little. So the next thing, we're going to go ahead and do our eyebrows. Usually I would fill them in and really get that fine line around the corners, but today we're going to just do no makeup, right? So we're going to go ahead and do a very light fill-in. So what I'm going to be doing is brushing out the hairs, and I'm going to brush it out upwards. This usually gives you less coverage at first, and it's very buildable. Now if you're using something like a little pomade, a little like waxy consistency, that you can definitely just put on your eyebrow first stroke, and it's going to be super dark, super bold, and it's going to defeat the point of the very natural no makeup look. But since I have done my brows for such a long time, I kind of know what my brows, how to work with this brush. This is the MAC 203 brush, and this is the Flawless Brow Trio by BH Cosmetics. I'm going to go ahead and use this dark color, and I'm going to also use this taupe color. And I usually like to mix them in to create a little bit of a lighter color. Now when I go in very light-handed. I don't kind of like smudge it all. I just dab it a little bit and then dab it into the lighter color. And then what I do is I start out in the very middle, and I'm barely doing any strokes. Like I'm barely touching my eyebrow. And then when I can feel that I do not have so much product on my brush is when I start to put a little bit more pressure on, and I'm start to go out to the edges. But you can still tell of how I've just done a couple strokes and see how much darker it already is. So when it comes to the edges, our natural edges aren't extremely sharp, not even close. So what I do is really, whatever I have left, I kind of almost feather out the product to the edges. So I dipped my brush once in the pomade and that created all of this. So this is filled in from just one little dip. And I didn't like smear it in there, I just dipped it once and then dipped it in the lighter color and then put that all over my brow. I am going to set my brow because throughout the day just the hairs shift around and then you're more likely to see that the sparseness in the brows and that it's been filled in. So what I like to do is actually take everything off the brush and make sure I have a very light amount. And what I like to do is actually bring the hairs up front. Since I actually don't put any product right here, but I put a little bit of product at the bottom. So I'm kind of I'm filling in this little area with my brows, except I'm just pushing them up because they tend to curve at an angle. And then when I get to the part where the hairs do curve, I just go along with the natural flow of the hair. Now you can go ahead and just use the tint gel and not do any products at all, like filling in. So the next thing I'm going to add that you don't have to add is in the same brow bar, I have this darker brown shade. It's very pigmented and it's very loose in a sense. So I'm going to go ahead and use an angled brush and I'm going to tight line my lash line. So I'm going to use a very small amount. And all this is going to provide for us is just an illusion of a fuller lash line. And I'm really just putting barely any on. Like when I dip it in, I'll kind of like wipe the sides and just have the product in the very center. And you don't have to do this step if you don't have to. I'm just adding this on because it gives it a little bit more of a oomph. And if I look up, you can tell the difference between this eye, even though you can't see that I'm actually wearing, even if I close my eyes and look down, you can't really see the shadow. And if you got a little bit carried away, you can always go ahead and just use that lighter color and just kind of dust that all over. And then all you have just created, you've created a fuller look that you have fuller lashes versus this side. The next thing we are going to go ahead and actually curl our lashes. I usually never curl the lash. I actually have this to curl false lashes, but if you would like to, you can go ahead and curl lashes. I'm going to go ahead and do it just for this tutorial. And this is just going to give us a little bit more of the curl. Now before I'm going to apply the mascara, which we're going to do a little bit. Now the next step you can go ahead and do if you'd like, but it's not like a necessary thing, is actually put a nude color in your waterline. So what it's going to do is just brighten up the eye. The next thing we're actually going to go ahead and put some blush. I'm going to use a blush brush, and this is the BH Cosmetics 10 color blush palette. I'm going to be using this nude shade right here, and I'm going to actually mix these two nudie peachy shades. I'm really going to slightly, because they're very pigmented, and I'm going to kind of put it at the bottom of the apples of my cheeks and really feather it out. And then I'm going to go ahead with this powder brush and I'm just going to blend everything out. Now the next thing we're going to highlight. I'm going to be using this Wet n Wild Fergie Edition highlighter. So I'm going to be using a fan brush, and the reason I'm going to use a fan brush because it's very fluffy and just like it gives me a little bit more of like the dust on look. So it's not going to put too much product on. And I'm just going to dust this right on my cheek. And I'm not trying to put so much that it's going to be like a highlight out of this world. I'm just trying to create a little bit glow and just that dewiness to the face. So it just adds a little bit of that dewy look. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that in the center down my nose. And the chin, the Cupid's bow. And I'm actually going to go down the center of my lips. And a little bit of on the brow bone. And just an overall, it gives us that glowy look. Now before a couple more steps, I'm going to go ahead and use a setting spray to set everything and make sure nothing looks cakey and just everything is set in the skin. At this time, I actually like to go back with the damp beauty blender while the setting spray is on and kind of pat down the highlight. And this is going to make sure that it's not powdery looking and it's actually going to kind of seep into the skin. That it really creates a very dewy and glowy look to our face. And I like to just take a lip balm. This is just your regular lip balm from Bath & Body Works. And just put it as a nice gloss over the top of my lips. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and actually go back into the highlight and just pat some right in the center. And this is really going to add that volume to the lips. And the next and the final step is going to be mascara. Now if you want to do like a full-on lash mascara, you can go ahead and do that, but since this is like a no makeup look, I'm going to add mascara just to the bottom part of our lashes. My favorite mascara to use to separate the lashes is something that has a rubber wand because it's going to separate the lashes and really comb them out and lengthen them. So what I'm going to do is put mascara just at the base of my lashes. And then when you go to the top, I just like to brush it out and create a really feathery look that there's absolutely no clumps. So it really looks like a very fluttery lashes. Another reason why I don't use a curling clamp is because when I go to the bottom of my lashes, I kind of really press them tightly against the lash line upwards to curl them naturally. For the bottom lashes, I like to just very lightly brush with a almost empty mascara. So there's absolutely almost no mascara on the wand. If you don't have mascara that's a little bit already kind of dried out and it's kind of already running out, you can go ahead and take the wand out and brush everything, the excess off of it, into the tube. So now this is the final look. It's very glowy and dewy, but yet you're very minimal in the makeup. The point is to just kind of enhance certain features of the face and really bring them out, and contouring is probably the #1 thing that really brings out the face features. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments down below what are some of your must-have or some of the things that you do to create a very natural, no makeup look. And if you guys are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button and I'll see you guys next time.